What if everything you've been taught about death has blinded you to life? The Egyptians didn't see death as the end. They saw it as a cosmic test, where your heart was weighed, your soul judged, and your essence transformed. The Tibetans didn't fear death. They saw it as the ultimate mirror, where your mind creates the visions you face and your awareness decides your fate. Two ancient civilizations, two sacred death manuals, one hidden truth. Death is not a final stop. It's a passage, and you were meant to prepare for it. So why did modern culture erase these teachings? Why do we die unprepared, trapped in fear, forgetting the maps our ancestors left behind? In this episode, we will tear back the veil, decode the ancient paths of the soul, and reveal the lost wisdom that can transform how you live and how you face the end. Stay with us. This is not just history. This is the most urgent spiritual knowledge you were never taught. Part 1. The Egyptian Vision. Death as Cosmic Journey. In ancient Egypt, death was never feared as a final stop. It was honored as the greatest journey the soul would ever face. The Book of the Dead, properly called the Book of Coming Forth by Day, was not some grim collection of funerary rites. It was a cosmic manual of navigation, crafted to guide the soul through the afterlife, through the underworld known as the Duat. The Egyptians believed the Duat was a vast, complex realm, filled with rivers of fire, gates of mystery, and divine beings who tested the soul's memory and worth. But it wasn't about punishment. It was about proving alignment. At every stage, the soul had to speak the right words, name the right gods, recite the right truths. Why? Because in the Egyptian worldview, knowledge was the key to survival. To forget was to fall into chaos. To remember was to rise into light. The most crucial trial awaited in the hall of Ma'at. There the soul stood before Osiris, the ruler of the underworld, while the god Anubis weighed the deceased's heart. Against the feather of Ma'at, the divine symbol of truth, justice, and cosmic balance, a light heart meant the soul had lived in harmony. In truth, compassion, and rightful action. Such a soul passed forward to become an Ak, a luminous, eternal being, united with the stars and the gods. But a heavy heart, weighed down by lies, cruelty, or selfishness, was devoured by Amit, a monstrous creature part crocodile, part lion, part hippo. The result? Total erasure. Not eternal damnation, not torture, just the dissolution of the soul. Notice the profound teaching here. You weren't judged on beliefs, but on the truthfulness of your life. You couldn't bribe the gods or fake your way through. The weight of your heart told the truth. This is why Egyptian life was woven with rituals, daily practices, and moral alignment. Not out of fear, but out of preparation. Because they understood death is not the end. It's the moment when your soul's true vibration is revealed. The tombs of Egypt weren't merely graves. They were sanctuaries, covered in sacred spells and protective symbols, designed to remind the soul of who it was, where it was going, and what it needed to survive the passage. Even the pyramids were built as cosmic maps, aligned with the stars, mirroring the soul's journey from earth to the heavens. For the Egyptians, death was not a punishment or a prize. It was an initiation, a test of memory, alignment, and mastery. In the next part, we'll ascend to the high peaks of Tibet, where monks offer a radically different, yet deeply similar, vision of the afterlife. Not a realm of gates and trials, but a landscape shaped entirely by the mind. From the sands of the pyramids, we now rise to the snow-capped monasteries, two worlds apart, yet whispering the same eternal questions. Part 2. The Tibetan Vision, Mind, Death, and the Bardo Realms. While the Egyptians mapped the afterlife as a journey through external gates, the Tibetans saw death as something radically internal, a mirror of the mind itself. The Tibetan Bardo Thodol, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is not a funerary manual in the usual sense. It's a psycho-spiritual guide meant to help the dying person navigate the stages of consciousness they encounter after the body's last breath. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is not a fixed endpoint. It's a passage through the Bardos, transitional states between life, death, and rebirth. These Bardos are not places like heaven or hell. They are states of mind, shaped entirely by the awareness and karma of the individual. When you die, according to Tibetan teachings, you don't simply disappear or float upward. You enter the clear light, the pure, unconditioned awareness that underlies all existence. For the trained mind, this is a moment of supreme opportunity. If you can recognize the clear light, you can achieve liberation. You can dissolve the karmic chains that would otherwise pull you back into samsara, the cycle of rebirth. But for the untrained mind, this moment is terrifying. Confused, overwhelmed, the consciousness recoils, and that's when the visions begin. The Tibetan texts describe radiant Buddhas, peaceful and wrathful deities, rainbows of light, and eventually the pull toward a new womb, a new life, a new cycle. These visions are not tests in the Egyptian sense. They are projections, manifestations of your own consciousness, your own unresolved patterns, your own deepest fears and desires. The terrifying, wrathful deities? They're not here to punish you. They're your own attachments, your own resistance, taking shape. The peaceful Buddhas? They're not external saviors. They're the mirror of your own inner wisdom, your own capacity for awakening. This is why Tibetan lamas spend their lives, training the mind through meditation, visualization, and mantra. Because at the moment of death, what you know determines what you see, and what you see determines where you go. If you recognize the dream-like nature of the Bardo, you can navigate it consciously. You can avoid the pull of lower rebirths. You can even achieve enlightenment. But if you panic, if you collapse into fear, you're swept back into the cycle, drawn by the momentum of your own karmic habits. In the next part, we'll put these two ancient maps side by side and discover the breathtaking similarities between the Egyptian and Tibetan visions. Because although they arose oceans apart, they may be describing the same universal truth, that death is not an end, but a mirror, reflecting the state of your soul or mind back to you. Part 3. Bridging Egypt and Tibet. Two visions, one universal truth. What happens when we place the Egyptian and Tibetan maps of death side by side? At first glance, they seem worlds apart. The Egyptians describe an underworld of gates, gods, and judgment. The Tibetans speak of light, mind, and karmic projections, but look deeper. And you'll see they are not contradictions. They are two mirrors reflecting the same underlying truth. In both traditions, death is not the end. It is a transition, a passage through layered realms of reality, where the essence of who you are is revealed. In Egypt, it's the weight of your heart, measured against the feather of Ma'at. Did you live in truth, in balance, in right action? The scale shows you. In Tibet, it's the clarity of your mind, meeting the raw, luminous openness of the Bardo. Can you remain awake, present, unshaken? The visions show you. In both, there is no external judge. There is no cosmic authority punishing or rewarding. The measure is internal dash, the resonance of your own soul or mind. Both systems emphasize preparation. For Egyptians, it's through rituals, living by ma'at, and knowing the sacred words and symbols. For Tibetans, it's through meditation, training the mind to recognize illusion and cultivating non-attachment. Neither offers an easy escape. Last-minute prayers won't trick the scales. Panic at the moment of death won't bypass the Bardo. Who you are shapes where you go, and in both, the ultimate goal is not to escape, but to remember. The Egyptians aimed to become an Ak, a radiant, eternal light being, not trapped in the underworld, but united with the stars. The Tibetans sought liberation, to dissolve into the clear light, ending the cycles of rebirth, realizing their true nature as awakened awareness. Different symbols, different mythologies, but at their core, they're pointing to the same human truth. Death is a mirror, and the key to crossing it is remembering who you really are. And maybe, just maybe, these ancient teachings were never about another world at all. Maybe they were always about this one, about how you live now, about how every choice, every thought, every action shapes the subtle architecture of your being, so that when the moment comes, you don't just die, you rise. In the next part, we'll explore what these two visions teach us today. Not just about death, but about how to live. Because the great secret of the ancients was never just about the afterlife. It was about mastering life through the wisdom of death. Part 4. Death as Teacher: How Ancient Wisdom Shapes Life Today. Why should we, living in a modern scientific world, care about the Egyptian and Tibetan visions of death? Because these ancient teachings were never just about the afterlife. They were about mastering life through the mirror of death. The Egyptians taught that every action, every word, left an imprint on the heart. Live in alignment with Ma'at, truth, harmony, balance. And your heart stays light, ready to rise beyond death. Live in falsehood, cruelty, or selfishness, and your heart becomes heavy, pulling you into dissolution. The Tibetans taught that every thought, every attachment, weaves karmic patterns into your mind. Train your awareness, let go of clinging, and at the moment of death, you can awaken into liberation. Remain distracted, tangled in desire or fear, and you spin back into samsara, the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. In both systems, the message is clear. Death is not separate from life. It is shaped by life, and in turn, it shapes how you live. When you remember death, you live with urgency, but also with clarity. You realize that wealth, status, possessions, none of these cross the threshold. What crosses is the weight of your heart, the imprint of your mind, the resonance of your soul. This is why, in both traditions, spiritual practice was not an afterthought. It was the center. For the Egyptians, rituals, offerings, ethical living, and sacred knowledge were daily acts of preparing the soul, not out of fear, but out of alignment. So the soul would know its own truth when the time came. For the Tibetans, meditation, mantra, mindfulness, and the cultivation of compassion were the daily work of untangling karma, so that the mind could meet death with open, fearless awareness. Modern science may not speak in the language of souls or Bardos, but even now, psychology confirms what the ancients knew, that facing mortality changes how we live. It sharpens priorities, deepens presence, awakens meaning. When you hold death close, you stop wasting time. You stop clinging to illusions. You start asking, what truly matters? What will I carry beyond this breath? In the final part, we will draw these threads together and explore a universal roadmap how you can apply the best of Egyptian and Tibetan wisdom to your life right now, to become not just someone who fears death, but someone who is transformed by it. Part 5. The Universal Roadmap, living as one who is ready to die. What would your life look like if you lived every day as someone ready to die, not in despair, but in full, radiant awareness? The Egyptians called it becoming Ak, an awakened light being, unbound by the underworld, free to join the stars. The Tibetans called it achieving liberation, awakening in the Bardo, breaking free from the wheel of rebirth, merging with the clear light. Different cultures, different languages, but the goal is the same: to die before you die, so you can live fully before you go. What does this mean practically? It means turning your attention inward. In the Egyptian path, this means aligning your actions, your words, your heart, with truth, balance, and harmony. It means asking daily, am I living in Ma'at? Am I deceiving myself or others? Is my heart light? In the Tibetan path, it means watching your mind, noticing the attachments, the fears, the loops that pull you away from presence. It means practicing awareness, training in non-clinging, so that when the moment of death comes, you recognize it as a doorway, not an ending. And both paths converge in one profound realization: that everything you need is already within you. The ancient priests and lamas were not just preparing people for rituals. They were preparing them to remember. Remember that the divine is not outside you. Remember that the soul, the mind, the consciousness is the key to crossing thresholds seen and unseen. In a world obsessed with material success, this message cuts sharply. Your titles, your possessions, your achievements, none of them follow you into the next realm. What follows is the quality of your being, the lightness of your heart, the clarity of your mind. So, how do you begin? You live now as you wish to meet death, with honesty, with presence, with courage, with love. You stop postponing your awakening. You stop waiting for the right time to align with your deepest truth. Because the great secret is this: the afterlife is shaped by how you live now. And when you live as one who is ready to die, you unlock a rare kind of freedom. You become, in this very life, what the ancients called immortal, not in body, but in spirit. A soul no longer bound by fear, a consciousness awake to its own divine nature. Final call: this is not just a path. It's your path. Will you walk it now? In the next video, we dive into the ancient Hindu mysteries, their cosmic maps, and open a new door to the infinite. Join us as the journey continues. Final CTA: let death be your greatest teacher. You were never meant to fear death. You were meant to learn from it. The Egyptians knew, the Tibetans knew. They understood that death is not the enemy. Forgetting is. Forget who you are, and you die every day. Remember who you are, and even death becomes just another door. So I challenge you. Live now as someone awake. Strip away what is false. Hold only what is eternal. Because when the moment comes, it's not your wealth, titles, or achievements that will rise with you. It's the light you carried, the clarity you built, the truth you became. Your awakening begins now, if you choose to remember. Watch the next episode. What ancient Hindus believed about the soul's journey. Your awakening is only beginning.